He bought her for silence. No name. No past. Just a collar that glowed and a stare that never blinked. She didn't beg. She didn't speak. But every night, when the collar pulsed, it wasn't fear in her eyes. It was memory. And when the world finally burned again, she didn't run. She rose. This isn't a story about saving her. It's about what happens when the thing you tried to own remembers it was once a queen. The air on Tavros 9 always smelled like rust and lies. Rael adjusted the scarf around his mouth, dust crunching beneath his boots as he stepped into the market zone. The sun here didn't shine at pressed. A thick orange haze settled over everything, making metal scream when it expanded and sweat itch where it dried. The kind of place where men sold anything they couldn't carry, and bought anything they weren't supposed to own. She was in the back. Crouched. Not chained to the wall like the others, just seated, legs folded, arms resting loosely around her knees. Her skin was green, not the vibrant kind from royal bloodlines, but a faded olive shade, as if hope had been stripped from the pigment itself. The collar around her neck glowed faintly. Pale blue lines pulsed under the surface like veins lit from within. Not mechanical. Not biological. Something between. Something wrong. The vendor didn't have a name, only scars and prices. This one doesn't talk. Doesn't fight. Been like that since we pulled her off the wreck 3 months back. Rael didn't answer. He was already walking closer. She didn't look up when he approached. Not at first. But when he stopped in front of her, when his shadow fell across her face, she raised her head and looked straight into him. Her eyes weren't pleading. Weren't afraid. They were still. Like the surface of water before something breaks through. Rael felt something shift inside his ribs. He didn't like it. How much? The vendor named a number. Rael didn't haggle. He handed over the credits and took the chain, not even a chain, really, just a length of synthetic fiber linked to the back of her collar. She rose without a word. No limp. No hesitation. She walked beside him, not behind. Back at the outpost, Rael didn't speak. Neither did she. He gestured to the spare cot. She sat. He handed her water. She didn't drink. He turned away. She watched him. He could feel it, the weight of her gaze. Not accusing. Not curious. Just there. Present. Like gravity. The collar hummed softly in the silence. He studied it later, when she slept. Tried to scan it. Failed. Whatever tech it was, it resisted every system he had. The glow changed color, once flickered green for a moment when his fingers brushed it too long. She didn't stir. The next day, he asked her name. She didn't answer. He wasn't sure if she couldn't or wouldn't. But that night, he heard her hum. A low sound. Barely audible. Not a tune. Just a vibration. As if the silence around her had grown too heavy, and she was pushing back in the only way she could. Rael lay awake, listening. He didn't know why he bought her. Not really. He told himself it was convenience. Cheap labor. A pair of hands for loading, for cooking, for patching gear. But she hadn't lifted a tool. Hadn't spoken. Hadn't obeyed. And yet he didn't want to let her go. It wasn't control. He didn't feel powerful around her. He felt seen. And that was worse. The third day, a skirmish broke out in the northern sector. Rael left her behind. Locked the outer door. Told himself it was for her safety. When he came back, the door was open. She was sitting exactly where he left her. Except the collar was dimmer. And there were burn marks on the threshold. He didn't ask. She didn't explain. But for the first time, he wondered who had been imprisoned her, or the collar. And whether he'd brought her home. Or into another cage. It happened on the fifth night. The outpost was quiet, save for the hum of power cells and the distant crackle of the sand wind against the reinforced hull. Rael was sleeping on the bench near the door, rifle half-cocked beside him, boots still on. He woke to light. Not the overhead kind. Not even the flicker from faulty wiring. A pulse. Slow. Alive. He turned. Lyria lay still on the cot, but her collar was glowing brighter than before. Not blue now. Red. Deep, molten red, like the inside of a forge. And her skin. Lines of light were spreading across it. Not surface reflections. Subdermal, like pathways carved into her from the inside out. Like veins remembering fire. Her hands were clenched. Her breathing shallow. A faint tremor shook her limbs. Her eyes remained shut. Rael moved to her side, unsure whether to wake her or not. Then she gasped. A soft, strangled sound, barely audible. Her back arched. The collar flared. And the air above her cracked like heat hitting frozen glass. A shimmer opened in front of Rael, maybe a foot wide. Not a screen. Not a hologram. A memory. The image hung there, trembling. Bodies. Ash. Metal twisted into thrones. A battlefield drenched in smoke and colorless flame. And at the center, she stood. Not as she was now, not bent or silent. She stood tall, armored in something pulsing with its own breath. Her hands were raised. Not pleading. Commanding. Around her soldiers. Not of her kind. Some human. Some hybrid. All kneeling. And she did not look at them. She looked up. The shimmer shattered like glass hit by sound. Rael fell back. The cot rocked. The light from her collar snapped off like someone had severed a connection. She lay still again. But her eyes were open now. Watching him. He didn't speak. Didn't breathe. She didn't blink. The glow under her skin receded slowly, like fire withdrawing into embers. He realized his hand was outstretched, hovering over her arm. He pulled it back. She sat up. "What was that?" he whispered. She tilted her head. Not confusion. Not play. Deliberate silence. He swallowed. "You were leading them." That was real. That was. She lowered her gaze. Not ashamed. Not afraid. Just done. He stood and paced, heart thudding like a drum inside his ribs. She had been a leader. A weapon. A symbol. Now she was here. In his spare cot. Bought. Collared. Wordless. It didn't fit. And suddenly, he didn't feel like the one who had the power in this room. He turned to face her again. Are you dangerous? She didn't move. Should I be afraid of you? At that, a flicker. Her eyes lifted. And for the briefest second, he saw it. The part of her that remembered being feared. Not for what she could do but for what she could choose not to do. Then it was gone. She lay back. Closed her eyes. The collar pulsed once. Soft. Blue. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. Because he wasn't afraid she would hurt him. He was afraid he'd already hurt someone who used to hold fire in her hands. The collar was not what he thought. Rael had assumed it was a shackle. A leash. A way to keep her contained, suppressed. Maybe it had once been that. But it was more. He found out when the station scanner picked up encrypted transmissions not outbound, not traceable, but pulsing softly in the air every few hours. Like a breath. Like a heartbeat. Coming from her. He ran the scan again. Filtered it through military-grade decryption. What he saw didn't make sense. Emotion signatures. Tiny bursts of neurofeedback. Thought fragments. Heart rate changes. A map of her psyche, bleeding out through the collar like invisible smoke. Being sent, somewhere. Someone was watching her. Everything she felt. Every flinch. Every silence. Every time she touched the cot, or didn't eat, or looked at him longer than she should. All of it. Data. He stormed into the room. She sat by the wall, legs folded, calm. As always. He held the tablet up. You knew. She didn't blink. Since the beginning. Since I brought you here. You were feeding them. Still nothing. Me. My voice. My decisions. My doubts. All of it went through you. She looked at him, finally. You were never mine, he said. Not for a second. And then she spoke. For the first time since he bought her. I needed someone who wouldn't see me. Rael froze. Her voice was quiet. Even. Not cold. Not warm. Like metal under shade. You were perfect. He staggered back. He thought he'd been the observer. The one with leverage. But she had studied him. Tracked him. Let him believe she was broken so he would never look deep enough to find out what she still had left. She stood. Walked toward him. He didn't move. She reached up, touched the collar gently, and the blue light pulsed once. Then faded to gray. They stopped watching 3 days ago, she said. He didn't ask why. He already knew. She had shown them what they needed. Maybe more. And now? Now she didn't need to be seen, because she was ready to move. The first blast hit just after midnight. Rael was reaching for a ration pack when the walls trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Then came the sound, not an explosion, but a pressure shift like the air had been yanked out of the room and slammed back in. He grabbed his weapon and ran. Outside, chaos. Figures in black armor dropped from low-hovering transports. Flash grenades bloomed in the street. Civilians scattered like kicked insects. Someone screamed. Someone else didn't make a sound at all. The Syndicate. They were here for something. Or someone. He turned back toward the room. She was already standing. Not hiding. Not afraid. Still. Her collar pulsed white this time. Then red. And then it shattered. Not broke. Exploded. But instead of damage, the fragments hung in the air, orbiting her throat like pieces of a halo. The glow intensified. From her spine, thin lines of light shot outward, mapping themselves into symbols above her shoulders, like forgotten runes made of plasma. The air bent around her. Rael stumbled back. The attackers noticed her now. Too late. She moved. Not fast. Not desperate. With precision. With purpose. Energy streamed from her arms, crystallizing midair into blades of violet light. She stepped into the nearest soldier, cut through him before he could raise his weapon. Turned. Slashed. Dropped another. Rael fired at a third, missed, ducked. He didn't know where she had gone. Then he looked up. She was above them, leaping from the roof, hair flaming in the glow of her own fury. Her body a weapon. Her silence a scream. He had seen soldiers fight. He had seen rage. But this was something else. This was reclamation. They tried to net her. The nets burned. They tried to shock her. She absorbed it. She was becoming what the collar had restrained, a myth they tried to forget. One soldier got behind Rael. Fired. He took the hit to the shoulder. Fell hard. Blood soaked the dust beneath him. Vision doubled. Sound blurred. Somewhere in the light and fire, he saw her. Cutting through the last of them. Then stopping. Turning. Her eyes found him. They didn't widen. Didn't flinch. Just held him. And in that look, for the first time, she asked a question. Not with her mouth. With her presence. Do you see me now? He tried to speak. Couldn't. She walked toward him. Kneeling. Put her hand gently on his chest. Warmth surged through him. Not healing. Not magic. Just truth. He had never owned her. He had never saved her. But maybe now, finally, he had seen her. And then everything went dark. The first thing he noticed was the silence. No alarms. No chaos. Just the soft whir of recycled air and the steady beep of monitors nearby. Rael blinked slowly, vision adjusting to white light, soft sheets, a needle in his arm. He was alive. A month, the medic said. unconscious, infection, surgery. But he had pulled through. He asked about her. No one knew. No reports. No witnesses. The syndicate team had been wiped out, and all footage from the night was corrupted beyond recovery. They assumed it was sabotage. Rael didn't correct them. He waited until the medtech left, then reached for the pile of folded clothes beside the bed. His jacket had been cleaned, patched. Inside the left pocket, something waited. A shard. Translucent. Warm to the touch. One of the collar fragments. And attached to it, a small chip. He inserted it into the bedside reader. A single audio file. Her voice, quiet. Steady. Next time I fall, I want to know who'll come back for me. That was all. The file ended. The screen went black. Rael sat still for a long time. Then he stood. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But with purpose. He dressed. Packed. Checked out. Didn't ask for transport. Didn't explain. He didn't know where she had gone. But maybe she didn't need to be chased. Maybe she just needed someone who would walk in her direction. No leash. No chain. Just choice. He kept the shard. Not as a symbol, but as a reminder that he had once been blind. And now, finally, he wasn't. Not her master. Not her enemy. Just a man trying to be worthy of the fire she carried. He didn't save her. He didn't free her. She did all that on her own. But maybe, just maybe, he learned how not to be another cage. Some scars don't fade. Some truths don't need words. And some women were never meant to be owned. They were meant to be witnessed. Thank you for watching UFO Love and Hate. If her silence said something to you, you're exactly where you need to be.